All right, welcome back, everybody. This is a special update episode with Jess, Jonna, and myself. So you got to listen to us for a little bit. Sorry, but we'll be back to guest very soon. We have a lot of stories coming up. That's part of the reason why we're here. So we did a big push on Giving Tuesday. We want to thank those that were able to get who did donate. We did receive some donations, but we're doing a big push right now for giving for 2025. Just to update everybody, as you know, Sacred Wilderness, which is our parent company, Bodies Behind the Bus, is under Sacred Wilderness. So we are a nonprofit. We have been a nonprofit since the middle of this year. So all giving is tax deductible, which is great. And our main focus as a brand, Sacred Wilderness, or as a nonprofit, is to really push the stories of Bodies Behind the Bus to continue to do that work. But we'd also like to continue to provide resources, free resources if we can, like we have been doing throughout this year with At the Bus Stop episodes. We'd actually like to do more of those. So we got together with our board. We have an amazing board. And we tried to come up with a number to try to help us to continue the work at Bodies Behind the Bus. And we're going to kind of walk you through what that is that we need and why, and what we will be doing next year. And we're going to kind of give a preview of that. So let's talk about what we need and what we're trying to raise. We are trying to raise a total of about $36,000, roughly about $3,000 per month, which, yeah, that seems like a lot, right? To some people, to all of us, really, because we all especially feel the crunch right now. But where would that money go? So the money really is going to go to two things. First, as most of you may know, some of you may not, Bodies Behind the Bus started with two families, so four of us total, volunteering our time to not only do the stories, to listen to the storytellers, do the intake process, but then also to edit and produce all of the content. So that has been falling on two families basically to manage that whole process. And we've kind of hit a place where it is a lot. We are doing a lot part-time and we all work. So a lot is going on to where we're still kind of managing that flow, and we're actually seeing an uptick in stories, and we want to be available to our storytellers. We want to continue to produce content as long as there's people out there that want to share their story. So we're looking for two things. One, we're trying to hire a part-time editor / producer of some sort for the podcast. We have been relying on Jonna and her husband to do 100% of the editing, and they do a great job. But we just like to bring on someone part-time because we're getting so many stories that we need a resource that we can have content edited and created in a timely manner so that we can potentially go to a 3-month release schedule. So 3 episodes a month. We'd like to release 2 stories and 1 At the Bus Stop, which would be free resources for our audience. So we're trying to bring on a part-time producer, part-time editor, which we think probably roughly is about 50 to 70 hours of editing a month. Does that sound right, Jonna? About 50.
Yeah, it does. And just so people know, I think that if you're not in editing, you maybe don't understand how much goes into podcast editing. And in particular, we are a very intentional and surgical team that's editing. So when we're editing these stories, there's up to 3,000 edits an episode sometimes. And that takes time, and it takes skill, and it takes taste. We'll tell our storytellers, like, I'll do the first edit, and I'm listening like your biggest hater and your biggest fan at the same time. Like, how do we get this sounding the best possible while still being authentic and honest to your story? And that just takes a lot of intentionality and a lot of time and a lot of skill. And to be frank, it's just overwhelming, the amount of work. So that is part of us being able to sustain and maintain our own mental health in this, is needing you guys to come alongside of us and help us to fund this position so that we are freed up a little bit more from really the burden that is editing on the back end, that burden of time and effort.
And Jonna and Aaron have done, I mean, you guys do an amazing job with editing. So it's a great, I mean, listening to other podcasts, I think John and Aaron just do an amazing job with editing. So, and that is purposeful because we want these stories to really we want the storytellers to have a platform where their voice is heard, and a good edit, it really helps with that process. So that is really priority one. Like, most of these funds are going to be going toward bringing on that part-time editor, so that we can not only continue to produce well-crafted, great sounding stories, but we can do more of them. We'd like to go to 3 episodes a month for releasing 3 episodes, 2 stories, and 1 at the bus stop. And with At the Bus Stop, we're really focusing on trying to continue to bring resources, free resources for experts, that we can share with our audience to talk about not only spiritual abuse, but recovering from spiritual abuse, a wide range of topics that we really like to get into, not just authors, but people that really are doing the work. I think, when we looked at like Eric's study this year, I remember Eric, who he came on, he's part of our board, his thesis that he did and his study, we'd like to do more of that. If you remember Perry's episode, where she also wrote something about spiritual bypass, which was a very interesting topic. So we'd love to continue to dive into other topics and bring other resources. And we feel like if we could do that once a month, that would be just beneficial for everyone. Anything else, Jonna, for that?
Yeah, I also just think Eric and Perry are both voices that are not getting platformed in the space, really. Like, they are fresh, new perspectives, but it takes a lot of behind the scenes, intentional relationship building on the part of Jay and I and the platform as a whole to build those relationships with people who are on the ground doing this work. I think that's something that sets us apart. So I want to toot our horn a little bit, that there is really like a circuit of voices that just kind of jumps from podcast to podcast when it comes to recovery, spiritual abuse, or even deconstruction. And while we really appreciate that work that those voices are doing, we are looking to go even deeper into people that are doing like data-driven studying surrounding these subjects. And that's what we're hoping to really bring to this platform, and just bring a sense of empowerment through education. Like, we don't have to keep having the same conversations. We're actually getting those tools real time with you, and we're able to adjust how we move forward and what the next step forward looks like based on data, which excites me so much. But again, takes a lot of work. So hopefully, if we can start adding another episode in and get more of that out there, it's going to be really helpful for the whole community. And I think we'll really see a lot of health come from that on like a large scale, because people will be having those resources to be empowered, to be making healthy next steps in their journey, whatever that looks like. And I think that kind of leads us into the next thing, right?
Yeah. The second part. So, as we mentioned, we started. There was 4 of us. There still is 4 of us that are volunteering our time to not only edit and talk to storytellers and interview, but we're also managing lots of intake, lots of phone calls, scheduling. We have a pretty active inbox, and that inbox has been held down mostly by my wife, who volunteers her time to do it. She does work as well. I step in also during that process and managing scheduling. So we're trying to bring on someone. My wife recently took a job. Well, she does work outside, but she took a job that she has more responsibility, and she just can't manage it as much. So we're actually trying to bring on someone as a part-time, I would say more like a podcast manager, who can help us not only with the intake process, so receiving the initial email from someone who would like to share the story, scheduling the calls to discuss that story with the storyteller, walking them through the process, and then also help managing once we record what that process looks like, keeping in contact with the storyteller, following up once their episode is ready. We go through an extensive editing process with the storyteller. So that individual, this podcast manager, would do that as well, manage that whole process from start to finish, and really be a part of this each story, which is critical. Right now, it's kind of everybody, all hands on deck between the 4 of us to do that. So we're really looking for a part-time, I would say, podcast manager to help with that. But then most importantly, like planning. John and I would love to do, first off, I think we do get supports from Patreon, which we're so thankful for. So if you donate through Patreon, cannot thank you enough. I mean, that really the what we get through Patreon really helps pay for the expenses of the podcast. So you're hearing us right now talk through online, but we're talking through an app that we pay for every year. There's just so much that we do just to manage this thing, and those Patreon funds go toward that, and we're just so thankful.
I don't know if people even realize that or know, like, we have microphones we send back and forth to all of the storytellers. It's a decent expense a month just to do this well, but you guys are covering that.
Yeah, every storyteller, I don't think people know this. Everybody, really, unless you have a microphone, we send you a microphone to record with. And we manage all of that, the logistics of sending it out and getting it back to us. We manage the whole process because we want to make it easier on the storyteller. And yeah, that is an expense, but that's also something that we manage. And it's, right now I have 6 headsets in my closet. And it's sometimes, I'm not lying, I'll have 4 to 5 headsets all throughout the US going to different storytellers. So that's part of the process as well. But we'd also, John and I'd like to do more live events. We've done a few, and we've really enjoyed them. We enjoy connecting with the audience. Our plan is to try to do 3 next year if we can. This podcast manager will really help not only set those up, but execute those as well and get everything going. And then we've also kicked off possibly doing like a couple live actual podcast where we show up and we do a podcast and we invite an audience in. So we'd love to do that next year. That's part of our goal. The burden of managing that on top of everything else prevents us sometimes from getting that work done. We have great ideas. It's just a lot of work to get it done. So we're looking for someone to potentially do, we estimate about 20 hours a week of support for a podcast manager, so 80 hours a month. And we'd like to bring that resource on sometimes in 2025. So, we're going to post kind of our Giving Tuesday slides that my wife made to this episode so that you can take a look. But we'd love, for those who are interested in supporting, coming alongside us and daring to listen and support these storytellers to think about becoming a monthly member if you can. I think we estimated we would need like 100 members. I think like 125 members just to give, or 125 donors just to give $25 a month, and that would hit our goal, which, doesn't seem like a lot, but we understand, like everybody else, that giving is, especially in these times, it's just a lot. It's a lot to ask. So we are throwing that out there and saying we want to continue this work, but we definitely need support from listeners and those that support the podcast. One other thing I was going to say, John, before you start, YouTube. So we launched a YouTube channel, and we want to continue to post content to that channel as well, whether it be live, actual interviews that we do where you can see the interview, or it actually just be audio availability for our audios recordings as well on YouTube. So,
yeah, if that's your preferred podcast listener, listening platform, it will slowly be migrating that will be included in where our episodes post. So we're super excited about that. Again, a lot more work to get that back catalog up in there, but that is part of what we are doing and working on behind the scenes. We really believe in this work. Jay and I wouldn't be here 3 years later giving all this time and effort and having this conversation with you guys if we didn't see the real life tangible change that comes from these storytellers sharing their stories, and really this platform that's been made possible because of people like you donating to make sure mics do get to these storytellers so they can share. It's really been an honor and a privilege to be able to do this. And we, like I said, we really believe in it and we want to keep doing it, but we need your help to continue to sustain and to foster and cultivate a space that really serves these storytellers well. It's scary to share your story. People are trusting us. They're reaching out to us with really intimate, vulnerable things. And we really want to make sure that what they are experiencing when they do that continues to be just the most loving, kind, caring, trustworthy space. And so these things are going to help us to be able to maintain that and sustain it long term. And I think now more than ever, stories are so important, and us learning to bear witness to them and to listen to people who we maybe don't even agree with on everything, but we are able to see each other's humanity and to value that we are all image bearers. I think it's really important. So if you're able to give, even if it's $5 a month, we'd love it to be 25, but even if it's $5 a month, that helps. If 5 of you are giving $5 a month, that covers one of those 125 spots. Like, you can make a change. And unfortunately, it costs something to do this work, not just emotionally, but it costs something financially. So we need your help.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, like, we'd love to, we'd love to be more available to our audience, as far as that's why we're trying to schedule some of these events where we have more live events, or we have more in-person events, because we appreciate, like I said, I mean, the people who have been giving for us for the past 2 years, I can't even begin to tell you how thankful we are for all of you. Because of you've sustained the ability for this podcast to be what it is today, and to be a platform for where storytellers are allowed to tell their story. So essentially what we're saying is we want to continue that work, but we see a need that work needs to we actually need to give more time to it. And because of that more time, we just need the support. I would like to say, like, we have a lot of stories coming out. So we have been editing like crazy. Well, Jonna and Aaron have been editing like crazy, and we have quite a few stories coming out, and we're booked right now for the first few months next year with all stories. It is like never before. We're getting more and more people that want to share their story, that are sending in saying, "Hey, I'd like to share my story." So, it's crushing, because I wish there wasn't a need for this, because I wish the church was just healthy, but it's not. And we want to be a place where people can come and share their story and get their voice back. So.
Yeah, I think for us, even, like, we hear these stories and we get to bear witness to these people who, like, just so much courage and integrity and beauty. And we record these episodes, and then they have to sit while they wait to get edited. And, like, all of us, including the storytellers, are like, come on, we got to get to it. We got to get to it. Like, there's like anticipation to get these things out. So having that help would just be incredible. And we are stacked up. We are backlogged on stories right now, and they're not stopping. And ideally, Jay and I would be out of a platform. We wouldn't have to tell these stories anymore because it would stop, but that's not happen. That's not our right now. So as long as there's stories to tell and we're able to do it, we're going to be telling those stories, and we would love for you to help us.